could eat a page for hours. Please.
Greetings and salutations. This is Cage's Kiss, the ultimate Cage cast, where we discuss each of the National Treasure's cinematic masterpieces in his life. And we also try to glean whatever kernels of wisdom that we can from his character that week. But you're going to have to tell me about the wisdom, because I don't read so good. I'm John Peters, or Adrian.
My name is Lena Castro, or you can call me The Cheese.
I'm Donnie, and I'm non-representative in this film.
And why are you so non-representative of this week's film, Donnie?
Because, like Kevin Smith's talent, it just didn't exist. he really can't write.
You didn't want to join me in going to see Clerks 2, Hardly Clerkin'?
Oh, are Clerks 3 still clerking?
Still clerking after all these years.
Still clerking.
Kevin Smith has been known to be spotted in his jersey with the Superman logo on it. I wonder what that has to do with this week's film, Linda.
On a very special episode of Cage's Kiss.
This week's episode is extra special because we're talking about a movie that didn't actually get made.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Today we're talking about Superman Lives.
Yeah, Superman Lives.
No.
Superman Reborn. Superman repackaged for a new generation. It's like 1997/98 about now.
Yeah, it was supposed to be released in 1998. And, of course, WB first approached Kevin Smith as the writer and John Peters as the fucking executive producer.
Dun, dun, dun.
John Peters, who you may know as Barbra Streisand's hairdresser and ex-boyfriend.
Yay!
And then producer, and he teamed up with Peter Guber for a number of years, and they actually did do some good stuff, like the original Caddyshack and Tim Burton Batman and Tim Burton Batman Returns. Unfortunately, that also involved stuff like Caddyshack 2. And John Peters went on to be the head of Sony, and then went to torment Tim Burton and others on this production.
Yeah, and I mean, he has some good movies under his belt, but he's also a fucking asshole.
which can be said of a lot of producers, to be fair, you know. Although most of those producers don't necessarily put people in the art department in headlocks at random.
Yeah, that seemed kind of violent, but
or up and kissed Tim Burton full on the lips when he hadn't asked for it.
No, that's a man kiss.
And Tim Burton's like, I think maybe I would have preferred the headlock or a kick to the face.
And according to Kevin Smith, Peters gave him 3 roles with the script. 1, no flying. He didn't want him to fly because it looked fake, apparently.
Superman, no flying. Kevin Smith can fly as much as he wants.
Yeah. 2, no suit because the suit looked, quote unquote, too faggy. And 3, he wanted a fucking giant spider.
He wanted Superman to fight the giant spider. He wanted that to be the climax because it was John Peters' vision.
Yes.
He had a vision, God bless him.
Yeah.
The visionary John Peters.
And Kevin Smith and then later 2 other screenwriters were trying to contend with John Peters' vision sort of imposed on top of the Death of Superman cycle in the comics, where Superman fights some convenient monster called Doomsday whose only purpose was to kill Superman.
Pretty much, yeah.
Oh.
But Kevin Smith's version had a lot of awesome Easter eggs for the DC fans, like naming the giant.
He's a comic guy.
Yeah, he did admit it was
guy.
just fanboy wank material.
Yeah, I'm glad he's able to characterize it that way and not be pretentious about it.
He's pretty honest about stuff like that usually. So,
and he admits that his true talent is just sitting around talking about shit and not actually writing it.
True,
like us.
Hi-yo! Come at us, entertainment industry.
Well, hey, we didn't make hosers, so
we sure didn't. We didn't make
No.
Jersey Girl or Tusk.
We made the classic Bear versus Whale. Starring Nic Cage and
Anybody interested in Bear versus Whale, they just need to get on our Patreon right now. Wink, wink.
and Gary Busey as Bear.
Hey, whale, hey.
Oh, Lord.
It was key to me in that script to have him say, "It's been real and it's been fun. Just hasn't been real fun." As the ending line.
I think maybe we should have got Dan Gilroy for our third draft as well.
Maybe Tim Burton to direct. But, Smith's version, of course, had the giant spider was referred to as the Thanagarian snare beast, referencing Hawkman's homeworld, Thanagar. And
If you say so.
The opening scene had Superman fighting Deadshot, who meets up with Black Manta on Corto Maltese, and he references the Legion of Doom.
So we got a lot of our information off of the documentary, "The Death of Superman Lives: What Happened."
Yeah,
this week, which has some interesting stuff in it. The documentary, the inserts where they try to recreate what the scenes would have looked like. Those are neat.
Oh yeah, and they include can I say friend of the show, Sig Neutron?
Was that a
Did
rim
we just
shot
have,
or
like,
did something fall?
that was my cat giving a rim shot because she's like, "Oh, fucking meow."
Well, I think your cat's got a future in this. Your cat's like another Bonham or something.
She really is. She likes to talk on the mic, so she can drop fire.
All right,
She
just
had,
roll
like,
her
a
over when she
gong.
has too much to drink.
But yeah, Sig Neutron played in the recreation scenes. He played Brainiac, and he also did the special effects makeup as well as the models and the props.
So for the documentary, they recreated some of the effects that the art department was laboring on creating. That John Peters had, because John Peters had a lot of random whims. He walked in one day with the National Geographic cover of the Australopithecus africanus skull, and he says, "I want a skull ship." And people were like, "Okay, well, we'll make a spaceship that's kind of really like a skull." Like, "No, skull ship," and it had to be like really, really scully.
Actually,
Yeah.
the model for the skull ship looked really fucking rad.
It kind of did, but unfortunately,
It
it
was
also
missing
reminded
Sean
me.
Connery in a thong.
Everything's
saying.
missing
Aren't
Sean
we
Connery
all?
in a thong. But no, I'd like to point out that John Peters also produced Man of Steel.
Yeah.
And the skull ship's awfully reminiscent of that stupid skull thing they have on Krypton with like the genetic information in it or whatever the shit that was supposed to be.
Oh God, yeah.
Remember-
The
yeah,
crystal skull.
All the bad ideas that they had for this movie, like John Peter, they were just in his brain, just stewing for 15 years. And then when Nutsack Snyder and Christopher Nolan come along to make a Superman movie, it's like, okay, so when General Zod comes back, those spaceships have to be kind of spider-like, okay? And he's got to fight something on the North Pole.
Oh God, yeah.
He was
Yeah.
making Kevin Smith have Superman. Superman's Fortress of Solitude was guarded by polar bears.
And
As he
Brainiac had to
does.
fight them.
And then somebody's like, "Kevin Smith, why is Brainiac just killing an animal?" It's like, well, John Peters thought it should have guards.
Apparently. But yeah, he gave him a lot of stupid shit in there, like the spider and the polar bears as guardians for Brainiac to fight. But apparently
That was
in
the first
his,
thing I ever read about this movie. Actually, was Kevin Smith's article in CinemaScape about how Peters
Oh.
was just impossible to work with.
Well, he ended up getting the goddamn giant spider in fucking Wild Wild West.
Right?
Wiggy,
yeah.
wiggy,
Wiggy wiggy.
Yeah, after this production fell apart, Peters went and produced Wild Wild West, which was also an enormous bomb.
Yes.
Yeah.
And in Smith's second draft, they had Elron as Brainiac's sassy, snarky robot sidekick.
He's like a gay R2-D2, they said.
Beep boop.
Oh Lord.
Because apparently Peters really wanted Kevin Smith to focus on like the marketability of like selling.
Yeah,
toys.
no, he did that to the people in the art department as well, like Sylvain. It's like they had to come up with more and more shit that could be toys, and like John Peters would bring like his kids by the art department and like get their approval or disapproval on everything.
Yeah, but it was John Peters' idea to bring on Cage.
And and Nicolas Cage was going to be in this, bringing it back.
He was totally going to be in this.
That's why we watch this.
He will always be my Superman.
And a lot of people will see the still of like Cage and like some of the costume tests where it's like got the plastic muscles on it. They're like, this is going to be dumb, stupid. Look at that, it's stupid. Nicolas Cage and muscles, it's dumb.
Yeah.
And apparently Bryan Singer really liked doing that when he made his fuck-awful 2006 Superman movie. It's like, no, you guys, you can't complain about the costume, otherwise it'll look like this. It's like, yeah, we're in a universe where there's only 2 possibilities for that costume. Thanks,
I'm
Bryan
pretty
Singer.
sure he did that when they made X-Men as well. He just likes showing the picture to everyone.
Oh, God damn it.
Like, I don't see how this relates to Mr. Hugh Jackman.
Bryan Singer likes showing a lot of things to a lot of people, you know.
You know what I'm saying? Don't Google his name and pool party.
The good news for this movie for Cage and Tim Burton is that they very wisely signed pay-or-play contracts involved with this production. And so I think Tim Burton got $4 million of his $5 million, and I think Cage, he bowed out gracefully. He only took 10% of the $20 million that he was supposed to get.
Good on
him. I heard that he got the full 20.
No, they actually have that. They actually show that in the documentary. There's a still. Where he decided to take about 10% of it. You know, he's not a big dick. You know,
medium sized,
kind of decent. You know, well, you know,
I just like to get comfortable in there.
Well, you know, like he's got to get some money, you know, like get some more rope, you know, for the bath, you know.
Yeah.
He said that he was going to. Here's a quote. He says, "I was going to turn that character upside down along with Tim Burton," and I mean, I truly believe it because when it's fucking Cage. Of course, you know it's going to be, you know. Cage is bad.
At the very least,
Superman.
It probably would have been interesting. And I do like that camera test where they got him as not in the Superman costume, but as Clark Kent. They got him with that shitty coat with the Mickey Mouse shirt on, and he's doing like you know, people make a joke and he's just like, you know, miles away, you know, like does the Columbo hand wave thing, you know.
Yeah, you know, honestly, it's like seeing that and seeing how him and Burton work together. It really would have been a very cool thing to see the two of them collaborating like that and seeing what they came up with. But I don't know. I still don't think it would have been as big a hit as most people think it might have been, or even a big flop.
Well, no,
it just would have existed.
Whether it made money or not, I don't care. And I don't know why Warner Brothers cared either. That seemed to be like the thing they did back then. They gave a $60 million budget to Fire Down Below.
Oh, no kidding! Yeah,
I don't know. I think that was right around the time they stopped releasing the Seagal movies to theaters. By the way,
yeah.
It's like okay, wait a minute. Okay, so the Glamour Man didn't do well, and On Deadly Ground didn't do well. So Under Siege 2: Dark Territory didn't do well. Why are you paying all this money for something you're going to put sneak to video?
Yeah.
Well, and at the very least, the movie with Burton and Cage, it would have been memorable, at least. And this was like kind of in that strange time for Burton. Like he had just done Mars Attacks, and he was yet to do Sleepy Hollow. So I mean,
No, I'm glad you brought that up actually, because there's still a point. Like even though this probably would have at least been better than say Batman and Robin, this is actually Tim Burton basically after his expiration date.
Yeah, it is. It's right there.
Yeah, because you know in the '80s, you know he did some great stuff. Pee-wee's Big Adventure. You know they keep mentioning Edward Scissorhands on this, the original Batman. Mm-hmm. You know, and then you know in the '90s, you know more good stuff in Ed Wood. And
fucking love Ed Wood.
Mars Attacks. And Mars Attacks is like, did you just like want to make like an Ed Wood movie like yourself?
Well, I mean, yeah, that's kind of it. It's like if you watch Burton's career from back then to now, and you look at the history, what happened with those films when they were made, he had a lot of shit for Batman because they were really kind of crapping themselves out of how dark it was and the direction that he took it. But they wanted to restrict him on that. But when he came back with Batman Returns, he's like, fuck this, I'm going to go full out with it.
Yeah, they let
and
him
then
run
people
rampant,
just got
yeah.
depressed with it because it's kind of like the Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. A lot of people like that movie, but there's also a fair amount of people that also hate it because it's so dark compared to the fun lightheartedness of the first one. But people like when shit goes dark.
I mean,
It's just-
Batman Returns has some problems. Temple of Doom, though. Hell yeah.
Oh, yeah. But it's still like, it was good. He got to do more of what he wanted, and he got to work with his strengths, which is just tortured characters.
Yeah.
But it's like with this one, I really wanted to see, if it had come out, I would have been interested to see where it went. But at the same time, because of where his mind was at when he made Mars Attacks, which really feels more like a passion project of his own versus something made for a studio success. It's just like, between that and this, I don't feel it would have been something closer to what he had in mind, so much as something a studio, like we saw in the documentary, really had their hands right down the panties of.
Well, the budget, the stuff they want to do in the script, the budget, kept
which is
getting
still sad because
larger, and so they have more investment with it, you know.
Well,
and plus,
and
John
it's-
Peters is
yeah.
there, so you're already behind the 8 ball. And Tim Burton and John Peters did not get along.
No, they
in
didn't.
fact, they were saying in one part in the documentary that that Burton had worked in England for the
He
Batman
shot
movie.
the '89 Batman in England to avoid Peters. Even though he was a producer on that film.
But it's still a problem that plagues that studio with every DC movie that's come out. And I don't give a shit if I offend DC fanboys and fangirls, but they really shit the bed with how they've been trying to handle their films because the studio heads cannot keep their hands out of that shit.
Yeah,
And
Agreed.
they just end up fucking them over until they just walk away like, well, you tried. It's like, I didn't do anything except what you people told me to do.
Well, no matter what, it couldn't be worse than Batman versus Superman.
that's Batman v Superman. Thank you.
You know,
Oh, sorry.
I think the question we haven't asked yet was, would Tim Burton have fallen back on Danny Elfman to come up with an awesome Superman score? And what would that have even sounded like? Because that also had
I
me
would
really
love to hear it.
curious. Yeah.
As long as they didn't recycle the John Williams score over again. You know? They can
Yeah,
only do
they
that
just
so many
can't really
times.
let that go.
I mean, let's face it though. Like it still would have been a Superman movie.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
for my money,
Right.
to date, and they've been doing them for years, but for my money, there's only ever been one like good Superman movie, and that was Superman 2.
Yeah,
It's more
absolutely.
concise than Superman 1. You know, it's
Yeah.
it's focused. It has a plot. It's still about a guy struggling with secret identity. There's a bit with him and Lois Lane and their romance. You know, like there's still like a healthy dose of humor. You know,
And there was supposed to be some of that in this as well, like more psychologically struggling with his identity. And
I like the idea that came from Dan Gilroy when they're in the third iteration of it, is the idea that Clark Kent is this freak and he doesn't know why, and he doesn't actually know he's an alien.
Yeah,
Yeah. yeah, I would have really actually liked to see that. And then like he's struggling in his relationship with Lois because like he's struggling with his own identity. And I think they were all supposed to have him like in like therapy. But apparently no, apparently, according to an interview with Wired in 1999, Kevin Smith said that his dream cast for this would have been, it's kind of a mix here. Because on the okay side, you have Ben Affleck as Clark Kent and Superman. Like, okay, all right, I can see
He
it.
did do that Hollywoodland thing where he played George Reeve.
Yeah. And then there's Linda Fiorentino as Lois Lane. She was from he would end up working with her on Dogma, and he wanted John Mahoney as Perry White. John Mahoney, known as Frasier's dad. He was also
from Moonstruck. Yeah,
yeah,
He keeps getting
the
the drink dumped on him. Yeah, I'm a
yeah, in
little cold.
Moonstruck.
You're a little boy who likes to be bad.
And then in the more fucked up side, he wanted Jason Mewes as Jimmy Olsen, which is
That
like
makes sense since he's dragging Jason Mewes around.
exactly, yeah. And then he wanted Jack Nicholson as Lex Luthor, and he wanted Jason Lee as Brainiac.
You know, I would have put Jason Mewes as Brainiac, honestly.
Well, we should
Really?
probably talk about the people they actually had cast in this attempted production. Is like they were thinking of doing they were already thinking of doing Kevin Spacey for Lex Luthor,
right?
And Christopher Walken for Brainiac.
Yeah, actually, they were saying either Jim Carrey, Gary Oldman, or Christopher Walken as Brainiac, and I would have loved to have seen Christopher Walken as Brainiac.
In the documentary, Tim Burton has the old man moment where he's like, "Was Jim Carrey even born back then?"
Yeah.
And they're like, just like,
Why are you people in my home?
Yeah, it's like, what's happening? I don't know. Where have I been the last 20 years? So.
But I guess apparently they really wanted Sandra Bullock to play Lois Lane,
and she wasn't into it. She had to do Speed 2 Cruise Control, too busy.
Yes. A pivotal point in her career. They also were considering Courtney Cox or Julianne Moore, and they wanted actually I think they actually gave the part of Jimmy Olsen to Chris Rock.
Yeah.
And which I can see. And then they wanted.
Did you notice though, like on that cast sheet they show on the documentaries, like they have the Jimmy Olsen possibilities, and at the bottom there's a separate section with 3 names, and it says "if black." And they were considering Marlon Wayans or Chris Rock, and the third guy's name I didn't recognize
because it works so well in Dungeons and Dragons.
Speaking of great decisions, brilliant decisions made by Hollywood here. I'd like to bring up a couple of the writers they had on it after Kevin Smith got fired. So the first one they had was Wesley Strick. And Wesley Strick has done some okay things. He did Martin Scorsese's Cape Fear. He did Arachnophobia and Final Analysis. But then later there's stuff like the Val Kilmer version of The Saint. And then there's Dwayne Johnson in Doom. And then Lee Sobieski in The Glass House, which is The Glass House. You really can't polish a turd.
Yeah, I remember that movie.
Yeah.
And soon we're gonna watch Nic Cage kick her in the tummy.
Kick her in the
Not soon enough, though.
The Wicker Man, ladies and gentlemen. You know, it's not a movie, but you do get to see Nicolas Cage punch out Sister Beach.
Yes. Greetings and salutations, my fellow chuds. I really do hope that you love listening to Cage's Kiss. Did you know that you can actually get paid just for listening to us? I know it sounds insane, but it's for real. We just discovered this free new app called Podcoin, and it literally pays you to listen to podcasts. So here's how it works. You listen to podcasts, and you earn Podcoin while you listen. Then you turn that Podcoin in for gift cards at places like Amazon or Starbucks, or you can even use it on charity. Personally, I like to feed the puppies and the kitties. The more you listen, the more you earn. So here's what you do. Download the app right now on iPhone or on Android, and I have a special code for you. Simply use our code CagesKiss, all one word, that's CAGESKISS, and you'll get 300 Podcoin just for signing up. And if you listen to us enough on there, you can get a cappuccino at Starbucks or an Amazon gift card on us. So go ahead and go listen to this podcast or virtually any other podcast. Although, why would you do that? You know we're the only ones for you, baby. On Podcoin, and sign up with the code CagesKiss, CAGESKISS. But even though Kevin Smith actually suggested that Tim Burton direct, Burton had, once he did come on as the director, he insisted that like they replace Kevin Smith with his writer,
right.
who was that Wesley Strick.
Wesley Strick had worked on Batman Returns, and Wesley Strick's like, so Tim Burton, let's talk about this Kevin Smith script, and Tim Burton's like, I don't want to talk about that script.
Yeah, he wanted him to completely rewrite it.
Yeah, and I mean, I haven't read any of these scripts, but it's probably fine.
Well, it was apparently really similar to Kevin Smith's because it still had Luthor and Brainiac trying to obtain technology that was created by Superman's father, Jor-El. It had like Luthor and Brainiac teaming up to find a way to block out the sun and help them beat Superman, and in doing so, they bring about Doomsday.
Wesley Strick's one is also
Superman.
the one with Lexiac, where they merge.
Yes.
which Tim Burton wasn't too into, and I hardly blame him.
But of course, like they both had Superman being resurrected by Jor-El's technology.
Yeah.
And
they had this
in,
little robot thing called K from that came in the spaceship with him from Krypton, and it like heals him and becomes his new suit for a little while or some shit.
Yeah, his Teddy from the movie AI.
Yeah, right.
Well, I read that in Smith's script, it was going to be referred to as the Eradicator.
Yeah, which is from the comics. Yeah, there was
right.
Yeah,
and
'cause everything in Kevin Smith's script was from the comics.
And because of Peterson's suggestion to optimize the toy potential of K, or the Eradicator, it in Smith's script, I believe it could turn into a ship. But in Strick's script, the tech was called K, and it was going to start off as like a teddy bear or like an owl.
Yeah, I think it was a teddy bear that starts off when he's a baby.
The owl theme comes in when you get to Dan Gilroy, the third version, and I read on Wikipedia. It's not in the documentary, but Gilroy was only brought on when they were trying to tighten up the budget, so that's when they fired Strick, and ordered the next rewrite. Gilroy has done some good things, by the way. I'd just like to make a quick mention of him here. So he wrote The Fall by Tarsem Singh, which I really like. I think it was great. Yeah, I think that movie's pretty terrific. He also wrote Free Jack with Emilio Estevez and Mick Jagger.
Mick Jagger.
Yeah, and Nightcrawler with the Gyllenhaal and Kong Skull Island. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Nobody's perfect. This whole week we're learning about how nobody's perfect.
That's the name of the episode.
Yeah.
Our show now.
Nobody's perfect.
Nobody's perfect.
Nobody's perfect. But it got kicked around for a long time, and even after like this version of the production was pretty much officially shut down, Cage didn't actually fully drop out until June of 2000.
Yeah.
So they were trying it for that long, and in the meantime, they were
really believed in it.
Yeah, he really wanted to make it happen. Well,
I know they.
Oh, sorry. Keep going.
Sorry, I know that they were talking about making it like a cartoon version of the movie.
Yeah, from the Kevin Smith
I think
version
that would be
of it,
rad.
they were talking about that. Yeah.
And Cage does eventually get to play Superman in the Teen Titans Go to the Movies movie, which was, I think it was awesome. But can we talk about the awesome costume?
Yeah, but costumes. So the studio head Bonaventura there. He's like, I don't know about that Superman outfit. Can we get the diaper off him? And Cage's like, yeah, I don't think about the red underwear. And it's like, yeah, you need the red underwear. You need to pay attention to that portion of the body. goddammit.
And at one point, they were even discussing using basketball shorts instead of the underoos.
There was a big crotch discussion, and they were considering basketball shorts. So like, it's crotch obscuring. It's like, yeah, and it's gonna look retarded. It's gonna look.
We need to see his bulge.
I say you put more attention on that area.
It's like putting Chewbacca in the Lederhosen.
You notice though, like in the comics now, they followed that exact suggestion. There's no longer any underwear, so like he's wearing this weird onesie, which is somehow even gayer.
Well, even more so, it's like the freaking show on Amazon, The Boys. There are bulges every which way the eyes can see.
That's what those costumes are all about.
How else do we know they've got a case of the not gays? We gotta see dick.
It's just science, people. Figure it out.
Dick
science. Oh man, yeah.
Well, and apparently, Peters wanted the cape to be a sentient weapon,
like
Doctor
Spawn,
Strange,
like from earlier that
Spawn,
year.
Yeah.
It's like, gee, Peters, these ideas are so neat. Where do you get them from? From the street. I was in 500 fights, and I don't read good. It's like you're literally just claiming to be in 500 fights. It's like, so Vin Diesel's based on you? Yeah, pretty much. I started all that.
That would be a great pairing. Is pair him up with John Milius and just let
oh
him
my
go.
god, no one would survive. just put Harlan Ellison
We
in there
made our
too.
own Superman movie.
Just like Patty Chayefsky's in the room too. They're all trying to drink each other under the table, put each other in headlocks.
And it all ends in an
Fuck
orgy.
off! I'll break your hip. I'll break your stupid face.
And that's how you get Eyes Wide Shut.
Great moment in the documentary is the interview with John Peters as he takes a phone call in the middle of it. Oh yeah, we've heard about the guy. Yeah,
Oh, yes.
yeah, I could put some money in that too. Okay, all right, love you.
Yeah, I just bought a prostitute. Let's continue. Come on.
Let's move this along.
You just know after that interview, it's the scene with the Superman from Godfather Part 2. Where they're looking at the donkey act in Cuba. Joey Zaza told me about this place.
So I think it was Burton's idea to have Brainiac as a spider with a human
Yeah.
Yeah,
head.
he wanted him to be like
And,
the Grim Reaper. So like in the cape, he kind of looks like there's a guy there, and then the cape opens and he's got like these long like robo spider legs.
And they were even talking about like having his ship be able to absorb anything that it encountered.
Because it's hungry.
And like, well, my husband Carlos said, like, there were a lot of great people doing who had
I
like
love
great things in mind for this.
You get all
this
the
movie.
concept drawings you get to see attached to this. Like, there's just some cool shit that like that Sylvain guy.
Yeah, they had Bilbo, Sylvain Despretz. I don't know if I'm saying that right. And then there's Jim Carson, Liam Sharp, Carrie Gamble. They even had
They
fucking
had Brom
Brom.
at one point. Yeah, the cover artist. Yeah.
Yes. And they had Will Reese and Derek Thompson, and I would hate to forget to mention that Michael Anthony Jackson turned down working on The Matrix to do this movie.
Yeah,
That poor bastard.
Poor
Shot himself in
guy.
the foot, yeah.
Like, I think he was even like already involved with The Matrix, but then he
He
said like
said yes to it, and then he had to bow out like almost immediately.
yes. Like, oh, fucking poor guy. But
Well, maybe if this had got made, we wouldn't have The Matrix. Just think of that world. Wouldn't that be wonderful?
Oh, I love this world. Oh, why didn't they just leave it at one movie?
It's a trilogy.
God damn it.
Because the Wachowski sisters thought maybe you got through the whole first movie and didn't realize that they were a little odd.
Yeah, that's why they're remaking the whole thing.
You know what? I really liked when we did The Matrix in '99. Oh, me too. Yeah, don't get me wrong. Yeah, but it wasn't pervy enough. Oh, not nearly pervy enough. Yeah, we need to make it like pervier. Yeah, pervier.
hey, say what you will about The Matrix, it had an awesome cast.
Well, it did have Hugo Weaving, and we like him, but we can see him other places. Like
Loves
we
Hugo
can.
Weaving.
He's been around. You don't need to just go to that one stop to get some Hugo Weaving.
Such a beautiful man. But
Which reminds me,
yeah,
darling, once again we
apparently-
should have watched Priscilla, Queen of the Desert.
yeah, let's just do that instead. Get some more Terrence Stamp in our lives too.
The real General Zod.
Apparently, WB had a bunch of flops, one after another. They had that
Sphere.
fucking Batman and Robin.
The
The
Postman.
Sphere. Yeah, they had
The
Sphere
Kevin
and the
Costner,
Postman.
yeah.
Rad Postman.
And the budget, unfortunately, just kept fucking getting higher and higher and higher
John
with
Peters
this
said
movie.
at one point it
And
would have been a $300 million movie, which is insane because $100 million movies had literally just been invented.
yes, yeah, this is like the tail end of the 90s. And apparently 3 weeks before the shooting, WB killed the movie. So, yeah, Peters believed that it was because of the budget, because of Nic Cage and Tim Burton, that WB pulled the plug.
Well, in the documentary,
And
they draw a lot of
Smith-
attention to when the '89 Batman came out. There was a backlash against the idea of casting Michael Keaton in that. Because they're like, no, he's Mr. Mom. This will never work. I was 7 at the time, and I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, and honestly, if you buy the Batman Blu-ray, the 4K that just came out, or the older one, they actually go a lot more into that in the documentary with that too. I mean, there was a lot of backlash about that.
Yeah.
Which is funny because now he's like my favorite.
Yeah, no, and he is. He is. I mean, like, you know, in case you missed it, the '89 Batman's the best Batman. You know?
Yeah,
and
Yeah.
I think the best.
And
superhero
Tim
movie.
Burton wanted him to do a cameo as Batman in this.
Oh yeah, he wouldn't confirm it. He
Superman
said,
lives.
"No, not exactly."
Mm. I'm sorry, Adrian. I didn't mean to cut you off.
It's cool. It's cool. We're getting it covered. We're getting it covered. You know. But like, I don't know. Is any of us actually representative of comic book people here? Like, are we
Kind of, sort of.
I don't think any of us belong to it as much as, say, like Kevin Smith, the people interviewed at the beginning of the documentary.
the man who
Yeah.
owns his own comic book shop and makes people pay extra to hear him talk about comic books at conventions.
Oh.
Well, I love comic books, but like I don't claim to be like a.
But none of us here
geek,
really has
you
like
know?
a Superman
No.
boner. Okay,
No.
because that would be unhealthy.
We are limp. Yeah.
If you have a Superman boner for over 4 hours, consult your doctor.
You know, I'm sorry. This is my prejudice, son, but fuck Superman. You know, it's like he's got all the powers. Yeah, unless you got some kryptonite. Look out for kryptonite. Yeah.
Yeah, I've never been that crazy about him,
Kryptonite!
but I think like I'm less about the Superman, Batman type of heroes, and I'm more of like the people on the side. Well, like I love Neil Gaiman stuff, and of course Squirrel Girl. Come on, now.
I just like the shit in
But-
the 30s
and the boys.
when they sometimes had masked detectives and shit, but there weren't actually any superheroes.
Mm.
Yeah, it's the same with Batman, though. I do not give a fuck about Nolan's Batman.
Oh god,
I
yeah,
really
no,
don't.
help with those.
But
Yeah.
I love more when Batman's actually doing detective shit instead of beating the fuck out of
Isn't
people.
it?
But it's the same with Superman. Superman had his time and place, but in today, the character really doesn't work. And when you try to retool the character, though, that's where things get really fucked up. They even mentioned
They
that in the
do,
movie,
yeah.
I think, or the documentary. I think Cage said that, where it's like such
Yeah.
a character. If you don't get it right, everything gets
Yes.
fucked up, and you have to get that character just.
Well, they
right.
interview the comic writers about the death
Yeah.
of Superman, and the death of Superman was a desperate gamble to try to save the character because
Yeah.
sales were flagging.
Yeah,
And in the
yeah.
90s Superman stuff, you know, from what I've seen, it's like it feels like they're desperate to remain relevant. They give Superman a mullet, you know.
Yeah.
Well, and Donnie and I were like really lucky because our cousin, one of our cousins, had not the crazy one who thinks that he looks like Nic Cage, but we have another cousin. We have a lot who owned a comic book store at the time, and I remember him sending us the whole collection of the Superman's Dead series,
Superman's
and
Dead.
he's dead, and it came with like even like an armband. That they
He
all wore at
also
his funeral.
made, knockoff T-shirts, which we
Yeah.
have, but you can't really wear per se.
Some good times. But you know, Nic Cage is like a huge Superman
he's a
fan.
big fanboy.
Oh, I just thought he named his son Kal-El Coppola Cage just for funsies.
He was just putting random things together.
I heard the name once before and I thought, that sounds like a nice butter.
No.
And
My
so
wife asked me about it, and I happened to be wearing my
yeah.
father's cape at the time. I liked when they had the movie phone interview with Cage, and he's talking about how when he saw the Bryan Singer Superman Returns from 2006, and it's like, they tried to make it like nostalgic and like, you know, stuff, and I'm really glad I wasn't involved in that version of it because I kind of wanted to do something, I don't know, good.
Yeah.
As much as I hate that Zack Snyder Superman, holy crap, that Bryan Singer Superman!
Yeah.
It's like you take all the sleepy
yeah.
pills and you won't be as tired as you'd be watching that piece of shit.
Kevin
well-
Spacey not only is just a horrible human being, but he's a horrible Lex Luthor.
Oh, Mr. Luthor. Well, of course, Mr. Luthor is always going to be Gene Hackman.
Oh God, yes,
Otis
yes,
Byrne?
now and forever.
It's a real pity that there was a Superman 3 and 4.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but then you get
The
Ducky.
quest for peace.
Jesus.
Oh, so while everybody was busy like pointing the finger at everyone else, of course, Kevin Smith believes that it was John Peters' fault.
He kind of has something
And-
there. It's
Yeah.
not entirely
Well,
without,
yeah.
merit, because they say like, well, sure, John Peters is passionate. He's a force of nature. He's also kind of a nut job.
Yeah, it's a nice way to put it.
It's like, well, if you were from the street like me, you'd understand. I understand Superman. That's a world that most men don't know.
Hey, did you know the polar bear is one of the most dangerous creatures in natural
Well, what do you know about
habitat?
spiders? You gotta be careful around spiders.
Apparently not a
What if a spider was
I
like
love
really
that
big? And they're like, yeah, so the spider has this poontang, and all these little spiders come out of it and fight Superman.
Donnie, I love that you gave him the Cliff from Cheers accent.
Yeah.
Like, hey,
Yeah, I can beat a man to death with 4 punches.
no bragging, just fact.
Hey, they say this man, when they say steam coming out of his heart when he dies in the dead of winter, it's his soul leaving the body. Jesus Christ.
Hollywood, we have ideas.
No, what they should have done is they should have said Superman in Chi-Town for once, Yeah, the buildings are taller,
Jesus
You could have gone and got some crawlers or something, I don't know. Yeah, and get a big
I think we're
Chi-Town
making the next
Chicago dog,
Pixar movie.
Yeah, fly over that lake. You know how
Please tell
cold that
me.
lake is? Oh my God.
Please tell me we're approaching face off
What?
because I really want to know
shit.
casting
Oh shit!
for this.
You want to face this fucking shit off after? Okay, so Tim Burton's delightful and all
Oh,
that,
before
especially with
we-
Superman's.
Mhm.
But I was thinking Clive Barker's Superman lives.
Oh my
Oh
God.
God, yeah. You were saying something?
Yeah, were you saying something, Linda?
Like it all takes place in Meridian. That's it. But what I was going to say before we move on, I just have to say that the funds for what this movie would have been went to fucking
It all went to
Wild Wild West.
Yeah.
So, and I'm so glad to see
And
that
I think
paid
it was
off.
J.J. Abrams who wanted to do some shit called Superman Flyby, which I think was going to be set mostly on Krypton. I got bored and I stopped reading.
That sounds like the porn version that we should make.
And I think it was in like 2000 they wanted to do a Batman versus Superman then. But by that time everybody's like, no, fuck it, fuck you, go down.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, Adrian. Who did you have for
obviously,
Face Off?
Clive Barker, not an entirely non-serious consideration, just because fuck Superman and everything to do with it, just turn it on its head, Actually, this is a thing that I used to argue on IMDb a lot back when they had Chad on there, which they don't anymore because they're bastards.
Yeah.
Is that
yeah.
basically anything that Tim Burton did or was trying to do in recent decades, you could easily replace him with Terry Gilliam and have it be like 10 times better,
Oh my God,
Yeah.
I'd fucking see it.
Yeah.
The Adventures of Baron, Munch's Superman.
Munchausen. Munchman.
The Adventures of Baron Carpet Munch. I have to say,
We'll make that porn after
due
the
respect
flyby.
for 90s Tim Burton, but the idea of Superman not actually flying but having to keep jumping, it's kind of like,
Yeah.
shit, why even put the costume on him?
That would actually
Yeah.
work with Gilliam. I would love that. Oh.
And Heath Ledger as Superman.
Because I don't.
Maybe this will be like Tim Burton's Don Quixote. It'll take 20 more years and he'll eventually get it made.
I don't have a problem with Cage playing Superman because like that square jawed shit is kind of has been over for quite some time anyway. I mean, it was already kind of getting silly in the 80s,
Well, like he would have brought something like weird to it, and I want to see that. Like I don't want to see more of the
unlike
traditional.
Christopher Reeve, Nicolas Cage is an actor.
Yeah.
Not to speak ill of the dead or anything.
I was gonna say, come for us, Christopher Reeve.
We will now insert the scene from Death Trap with Michael Caine and Diane Cannon.
Oh. So, would you have anybody else in mind for the rest of the cast?
For the cast? Well, not Sandra Bullock. I'm
Yeah.
gonna be firm on that point right now.
Well, yeah.
Fair.
At that point in time, what would have been interesting is that they got like a Deborah Kara Unger or a Marge Hellenberger. Somebody kind of like that, a little bit different.
That's
true. What
Yeah.
where like she is self assured, but there's no feisty. Because the feisty
Right.
thing is like almost a self-effacing thing, when they do it. It's like, it's like when they whip out a description for a female character, they'll use a word like that, and from that you're supposed to realize it's a woman. Like that. It's kind of like this old sexist viewpoint, kind of. I don't know. Yeah.
Or back in the 90s, like they could bring in a sassy woman, and you knew that was a black woman. Fucking 90s, man. So, Donnie.
Yeah.
you got to recast for us. You got to face this off.
Well, I kind of really would like to have seen John Milius' version of this film.
Oh, well,
just
hell,
because it
I
would have
mean,
been interesting.
The strength of John Milius is that he's insane. Like if you hear him talk,
exactly.
He's literally insane. He has no conception of right or wrong.
Yeah, I mean that's still something that sticks
fits
with
something
me.
nutty. Like that's why his Conan works so well.
Yeah, that's
Fuck
what I'm
it,
saying.
give it to Uwe Boll.
No,
It's just something that
Boll
came-
just is a legend in his own mind. There's a difference.
Yeah. But I mean, that's something that stuck with me from the Conan film that he talked about when the actress had cut herself on her sword during filming, and the way he comforted her was to say, your character, she would learn not to let that happen again. It's like, God damn, man. It's like, I would love for shit like that to happen in this. Like, oh my God, I fell from my straps when I tried flying. It's like, Superman doesn't
You're a
fuck up like
Kryptonian.
this.
Get back on your feet.
Yeah. But I mean, if I was being kind of serious, I still, even though I really hate Superman's returns, Brandon Roth really did well for the character. I mean, for what he didn't come off trying to be Reeves.
I mean,
he still came off as how Superman should be.
Yeah, I like him.
But
you're right. No,
if I
Roth
really
wasn't
want
the
to
problem.
take this, if I took this in the direction that really seems fun, which would be how this documentary tried being, let's make this Jodorowsky's Superman Lives. And have Nic Cage as putting his son in as Superman. And this whole thing of naming him Kal-El Coppola Cage was a part of his setup for his 20-plus year plan of having him star in the film. I mean, you can even go further into like Boyhood and say that they started filming his birth for the fucking movie, and that they're going to make this a 20, 30-year project where then the Academy is going to just be jizzing in their pants going, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. Fuck the Joker.
And then Tim Burton said, then Superman Returns came out and I didn't want to watch it. My son said, no, we're warriors. We have to go see it. And I said, this is a failure.
Exactly. Exactly. Oh God.
Yeah, I'd watch it.
Did you have a director cast or anything?
Well, Donnie, are you finished?
Oh, I finished a long time ago.
Okay. Well, I don't have a director recast, but and how can you top Jodorowsky? But I would say as just like a cast recast, I would have Superman. I would have fucking Wesley Snipes because fuck you, and I'm actually being serious because I would like to fucking see Wesley Snipes
in that
in
universe.
the 90s
We might not have had the
as
Blade
Superman.
movies, so that would probably be fine.
Yeah, see? And then as Lois Lane, it is the late 90s, so I'd have to say Drew Barrymore or Michelle Pfeiffer.
Oh, wow. We're getting in a world of
Perry
extremes here.
White,
Yeah.
as Perry White, I'd say John Dunsworth, aka Mr. Leahy.
Yeah.
And Jimmy Olsen, I would have either Bradley Cooper, because I believe he was an alias at the time, or I'd have James Marsters, who played Spike in Buffy the
You
Vampire
get somebody
Slayer.
who looks like Jimmy Olsen. You get Rick Astley.
He'll never give that role up.
Internet.
Cage.
So,
But I would say that as Lex Luthor, I actually want Cage as Lex Luthor. Because I
Cage as Fu Manchu
I would
as
like
Lex
to see
Luthor.
that.
Yeah.
But isn't that his character from Deadpool?
Yes.
No chiclets.
He would have been great as Brainiac, honestly.
Well, finally, that was my final.
Wait a minute.
recast
Wait
is,
a minute.
Brainiac.
Was this a sequel to Drainiac? Whoa.
Maniac Cop.
Oh, yeah.
I would have Sir Anthony Hopkins.
Ah.
But yeah, were you guys able to find any cagey wisdom?
Don't 90s. Just don't do it. It's bad for
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, and don't give up on your dreams. Just let a studio crush them for you.
Yeah. they'll do it too. They like it.
It's like,
They're
I
what you
love
might
your
call
life story.
experts.
It just needs a giant spider.
I'll spider it up for you, man.
Yeah.
I would say that the greatest piece of wisdom in all this is to always, when you can, get that pay or play
Get
contract.
that sweet freaking contract.
Oh, and validate your parking.
So I guess this is the part where I say, please listen, follow, rate, and review Cage's Kiss on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Podcoin, TuneIn, and YouTube. And remember, you can find Cage's Kiss on Facebook and on Twitter at Cage's Kiss. You can visit our website at cageskiss.com, and you can write to us at cageskiss@gmail.com. And I have to say this week, I have to thank Carol Hudson for sending us in a correction, because look, every now and then we're either drunk or on muscle relaxers or painkillers, or all of the above. And I know that this was my fuck up. I have no idea where the fuck I got it, but in Zandali, I said that Erica Anderson was from the UK. I think I said she was born in London, and I still have no idea where I got that, but I could have sworn that that's what it said on IMDb.
Really?
But she's from Tulsa, Oklahoma, apparently.
Oh, so well then,
And
fuck it. She's not a good actress after all.
Wait, did we just
No, she's
prove
not.
that I was right back in our original episode 00 when I did say we were not experts?
We are totally experts at sitting here and enduring things that are very bad that other people might not have.
Thank you,
yeah,
sirs.
I bet we have some
But also
fresh torture
apparently
coming
her
up next week too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I should also say that Erica Anderson's first movie apparently was Nightmare on Elm Street 5. So thank
Bless
you
you for this
very much,
information.
Carol Hudson, for telling
The
us.
Dream Child.
Do you guys have any plugs? Adrian?
Well, I'm still Leo the Fox on DeviantArt.com, and I just put a lot of my blood, sweat, and tears into another issue of Dreadful Tales, the Tales of Lurid Adventure, which you can go on there and check out or not. You know, like whatever. It's not like you gotta. It's not like you care. Whatever. Sure, it's fine. And I'm still on YouTube as AA Smith, and things go on there. You can check it. And Donnie has something.
I have Gelflings.
Gelfling.
That's what I have.
Gelflings. Try my stone. Try
I
my
hear
stone.
you're a weirdo.
I am
you like those
still
one-winged
Unreal
ones.
Goals. Oh. And I'm also still the boy who blew over on Pornhub because we're not good enough for the other ones yet. But that's all I got to plug.
Not yet RedTube ready.
No, but we will be.
I am very sad to report that we will be seeing you next week with City of Angels.
It's a city of angels.
I wanna
I'm telling you, we could still do.
Why
Joe
wasn't
versus
the movie just 5
volcano or
minutes long and
Roadhouse?
it's just Meg Ryan riding on a bike and getting rolled over by a truck? Why wasn't it just that? You could cut it into every one of her movies, like in the cut. All of a sudden, she's in a different costume, getting crushed by a truck. You know, you've got mail. All of a sudden, under a truck. You know.
Well, you said in the cut, and I immediately thought, do you mean the movie that had a huge deal about a blowjob being shown in the film? Because I don't remember that being in City of Angels.
I'm sure this. Well, we'll just have to check it again and make sure that's not there.
Until then, I shot a kid.
Shot a kid.
Yeah, you know, Zod, you got to stop what you're doing there. You got to go to the forbidden zone. You know, we don't want your people taking over. I'm gonna send my son to Earth. He's gonna stop you.
Metal S. Batarang.
Hey, what you doing over there?
Hey, what you doing there?
Don't make me fly after you.
Oh, you got that Chicago style pie, you know, yeah, with the tomato sauce on the top.
God damn, I'm gonna put you in a fucking headlock.
Cage, 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 Peach. I could eat a peach for hours. Please.